definitely for sure for me, the 90s was the period, the golden period of modelling was the 90s. Yes. Yeah, I didn't know anything about it, so it's one of those things you cannot take yourself seriously. I was jumped into the deep end quite quickly, and I had to learn very quickly. But it was fun, When they told me how much you got paid for doing that, I said, yes, okay. When I did those campaigns, I realised, in a business point of view, that I should capitalise on that. So I realised these are as good as you can get. So I did feel that I'm right up there now, and this is my moment. And I really worked at it, and I always look for the next campaign. So I'm always hungry. I always think, if I'm going to be in this business, I want to be the best, or I want to do the business, or I won't waste my time. So I always had that mindset, what's next, what next? And fortunately, it was it worked for me. So I always had I pretty much did 3 or 4 campaigns a year, and that worked pretty well most years. So I had this secret goal in my mind that what's the next campaign, and I would say, right, and tick. So I would, in the back of my mind, see, I've done this, and you get a bit greedy too. You want to see how many you can do. Yeah, I used to use this a lot. They would say they wanted Italian, and I would be Italian. If they wanted French, I'd be French, because I could change my look and do that, and I played with that a lot, because I would go to different markets and change my style, my hair, my things. So they thought I was everything, but definitely European, So yeah, I really used this European blood that I had in me to work. But I could see the models they were using and the things, and I looked like them, looked like the Italians, or looked like the French. So I still, even whatever country they would talk to me in that language, and I would always mimic people, the style, the clothing. The Italians had a certain look, the French would have a certain look. I remember looking at Italian Vogue and thinking, those guys look like me. And I'm thinking that I could, I wear those clothes, that those people look more like me than other models. So I could see it, and I don't think you go into a business unless you have the confidence to do it. So my mindset is, if you work hard at it and you're fit and healthy and you take it seriously, yeah. So I think it's a funny thing, modelling. It's you're self-promoting yourself, but you've got to take yourself seriously. If you don't take yourself seriously, the clients won't. So yeah, I think looking back now, I could totally see it. See, the key to my success was do my homework. It was Italian Vogue. I knew they had the Italian look, so I would get an Italian suit, have my hair a certain style, use my wave. So I used to really look the part. And each country had a certain look, but I would always mimic the look and go in, and they would actually totally convince, until I spoke obviously, but that I was French or Italian. So that's the key to my success, is how to change my look. Chameleon, I think the word is used, and I used to play on that a lot. Styling is most important, and luckily enough, I actually made sure I looked at the magazine first and could see who the photographer was. And so, to me, castings was the big deal. My philosophy is that if they're doing a shoot, I wanted to look like the shoot before going in. So I used to sit there in a double-breasted suit, and I would have my tie, and everyone else was in 501s and t-shirt, and they would go, yeah, this is what we wanted, this is exactly what we wanted, and I always got the job, simply because I looked the part, and they could see that that's what they wanted. The 90s was glam, it was in your face. Now it's all about being more relaxed, more realistic, and more natural. So it's completely different. And I actually prefer it now. I actually like modelling, shooting, because I can be me. I'm literally thinking what that person or what they want. I think in my head, how would you feel And the photographer will say, yeah, that's it, that's good. And you got to hear that, because you're trying to, if you think too much and you post too much, it doesn't work now. Yeah, I'm totally a better model now. I totally can. I have more idea what works for me. I know what works for me on the camera. When I do a shoot, I know there's no messing around, because I mean, I've been doing it so long. I know exactly what works. I know exactly how to do it. Before, maybe I did, but I have such a high standard. When I do a shot or anything, I want it to be the best. So I know what that takes, what that works. It's not just, it's, you know, if you look at top models, it's all about their movement, their expression, and that's something you got to really work at, because otherwise you just look silly. Otherwise you don't work. You just don't get jobs. So, but it's what we get paid for, and I'm so used to it now. I wanted everyone to be happy. They paid a lot of money. They wanted someone to obviously and I wanted to give them the best. I honestly don't, I put so much energy into the shoot. I want them happy. As you know, I wanted to see them smile. I wouldn't be happy unless they did a shoot and they say, wow, this is amazing. To me, if I had to hear that, because not for my own ego, I just wanted them to have the best shot. I want that to be the best campaign. I wanted to prove to them that they chose the right guy. So, I mean, I was very, very serious. No, I don't think I was too hard on myself, because I trained a lot. I had a really hard regime, and I was used to it. So I never really was hard on myself. I'm looking back now, and I realize that as a younger version, that it's pretty good, But I don't look backwards. I did, I knew that I did the best I did, and I couldn't have done better. So I know that. So I never kind of look back. You can't do that. In modeling, you can't look backwards. You kind of tend to forget what you've done, and you move on to the next. So it's interesting going back into my. I mean, I had something like over 2,000 editorial shots of magazines that I have stacked, because I'm a real hoarder. Yeah, I have probably one regret, I think, when I talk about it, is that I had a casting in Milan and they wouldn't tell me who it was, and they weren't going to pay me, and so I turned it down. As it turned out, it was a Madonna video, Justified My Love, which was stupid because everyone who did that was now famous. So yeah, it's things like that. Do your homework. Don't be a serious dude. And I was working with another job, but yeah, that kind of hurt when I saw the video. It's a woman's business. Modeling is always woman, and men, we are in the shots, but we're referred to handbag. But at the end of the day, it's a woman on the street. They get paid more. They get focused on, so it's, one of these businesses that it'll never change, the woman rule. And men, they have their own thing, but at the end of the day, it's a feminine business. And we're in the shots to make the women look good. Oh, modeling's brutal. Hence why I'm thinking about my son. You have to be in top condition. You have to always work it yourself, and there's no slipping up. You always have to be on your best form every day. Best form. There's no room, because don't do this business. You're selling yourself. You're selling a product, and you won't work otherwise. And as you get older, you got to be more stricter, more things. But I like that. To me, it's a challenge. I totally love challenges. So yeah, it's such a hard business. I think my look would still work, and the only reason I say that because my son is identical looking to me, and he can model. He's already being approached by everyone. So yes, I think I still could do it. I still do it. So as a younger version, yeah, I think
Do you want him to be a model?
do I want my son to be a model? Interesting question. Yes, because he could do very successful. But as someone who's been in the business, it's not as easy. And that's the thing about modeling. There's absolutely you have no control over it. You can be successful, you can't be successful. There's no given to it. It's certainly got to have the look, but he knows what flavor it is. So, and he has to. The thing about modeling is you've got to have the personality. And does he have the personality of rejection, the ability to able to understand it's not personal? Because as I said once, it's like you get a job and you get fired that day, the next day you got to look for a job. So you're always unemployed. And to even work in Europe, it's so difficult. And there's so many people, so you got to put that all out of your head. And does someone have the right mindset to do that? That's the question. I think you got to be your personality's got to be very determined, very strong. And if you don't have it, you're not going to do it. You're going to go to Milan for 3 weeks, get rejected, and go home. And I've seen that all the time. Looking back, I probably didn't realize how big that was. But now I'm looking, afterwards I realized that this is a huge campaign. And it's very unusual to do 4 or 5 campaigns because they don't like you being the other guys. So, yeah, not at the time so much. It's funny because when you do one, you're so busy doing the campaign and it comes out and you realize that this is huge. And then you do another one, it makes you feel like, okay, this is good, this is working for me. That there's something there. So, yes, I did Nike, I did the Armani, I did Cerruti. I started modeling, I think it was about 23 or 24. And when I started, it was one of those things that I didn't take seriously. And it was in Australia. And my younger brother was going into Vivian's and they wanted to use me instead. And as I started, they wanted to use for every magazine covers and everything, which I thought was crazy because I didn't know anything about modelling. And suddenly, it was all on from there. I think within 4 weeks I had a full editorial book and covers. And looking back at then, I realised, that was quite an achievement. But back then I had no idea what modelling was. I just knew they were going to pay a lot of money. Yes, there were strict rules. You had to be a certain height, which is over 6 foot. You had to have a 40-inch chest, and you had a 32-inch waist. That was it. No, they wouldn't even take you into an agency. That's the first requirement. So yes, definitely the rules. Back in the 90s, the competition was so tough, was so strict, that they demanded that. It was the thing. Looking back now, I'm very fortunate to be able to do all these people. And plus, what I found really interesting when I worked for these clients, they're so nice. They're so sweet. And, they're not what you think they are. Like when we did Louis Vuitton, and the people are so nice. I've had worse people in New Zealand and Australia. And, I found that the nicer, the bigger the campaign, they treat you really sweet. Because, you're the talent. They want you happy. They actually give you the confidence, what you need. So that was nice. And then you actually sit down and they're doing your makeup and you realise, I'm working for Balenciaga. The reality is that when you get to a job, the photographer will shoot you, he'll look for the camera, he'll do 2 or 3 shots, and if he doesn't like you, he'll tell you to go. And he'll do that in a matter of 2 minutes. So you're standing here and you can hear it's all about the clicks. So if you hear the click, 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 you're there. If you hear the click and there's a pause and a click, and he's looking up and he will look at you and he'll say, no, he's not good. And I've seen this happen. It hasn't happened to me, but that is the big boys, the big photographers, absolutely no time. They don't waste, they're brutal. If I could get into a time machine and go back maybe do a few things differently, take it a little bit more seriously. Know who the designers were for once, because I never knew who they were. They just Italian names. And it's funny, I was working for something, I still to this day don't know half the photographers I do. I have to look them up. But yeah, I think I did it pretty good. I'm a pretty serious guy. As I said, I took it the same way I took training for the Olympics. So I have to say I'm pretty much a perfectionist. Now that I look at my son, I see a younger version of me, and I can look at my son and think, well, he's beautiful looking. And I could see that he's already being approached by agencies and all that stuff which happened to me. So I see that in him, the younger version of me. So I can do it now, look at that. Yeah, so I did everything in New Zealand, and then I was overexposed. So you have to move to another market, and for me, you do a market, you do everything, and you get out, and then you do that again. Because if you stay, they won't use you. You're overexposed. So certainly, I had no choice. I went from Australia, and I knew that I had to go to another country. And to me, it was like contracts, to go to New York and stuff like that. So certainly, you get overexposed. It's great to work everything, but they won't use you again. So, yeah, you have to be clever. Work it out. You had to look, but also the drive, the ability to travel, the ability to have that ambition, the ability to push yourself and really work it. So yeah, for me, it's just ambition and the drive. The drive is more as important as the look. And the ability I can do this. I can travel, I can go and live in hotels, I can go to different countries. And yeah, the drive, man. It has to be the drive for me. Well, when I look at people, other models, I can see them. You can see when they're like 8, 9, 10 years old, they're going to be models, So I think it's genetics. I think that you got to have the right genetics, and you can work from that. So it's funny, but I think that it is genetics, and yeah, I suppose it is. I can see it in my son. I can see my son and me, and I can see that. So when you go into a casting, you have maybe. For shows, you maybe have 80 or 90 people. So you got to look different. You got to look unique. You got to stand out in the crowd. And these guys, when you go and work in Europe, you got the best men in the world. So you got to be confident. You got to say, I got this. When I was doing shows, I would walk and say, I own this. I'm the best. I'm top dog. And that's something that you got to learn to do. And you almost suss, and I did this in athletics before we did races, we always used to suss the athlete out. So you got to go and say, yeah, I'm going to get this. And literally the clients would look at you and say, this guy is confident. The confidence is the key factor. Yes, you had to get out of New Zealand. You had to go to, generally you go to New York or Milan, and you have to work for the magazines, and you got to get the proper photographers, and otherwise you'll stay in a niche. For me, they knew straight off you got to go to Milan or Paris. That was their concept, and yeah, you got to go with. If you want to be the best, you got to go where the best is. Yeah, bookers were the most key factor. Without a booker, you weren't going to get the job. And bookers are interesting because, for example, in Models 1 and Storm, you had the best bookers, but either they liked you and they work with you, potentially they can see the potential in your work. So if you don't have a booker, you're not going to work. The bookers get you the jobs. Without them, no chance. Hence why you always get the best agency, the best booker. Best booker is the best agency, you'll work. Without that, you don't want to be in an agency with them. You're just not going to get there. I never had big castings because they always said pre-select you beforehand from your portfolio and your book, and then they want to see you. So normally I found that there's always one other person, or two other persons casting. Only castings that was really big was shows, But usually in the top jobs for campaigns, they select you down, right down, and then they want to see you. You can have the photographs, you can have the looks, but it's all about seeing you in person. There's no escape from that. So they would look at your photographs and then they would do. I remember Italian Vogue once. They would send the models there, and then you'd have to see the photographer, and he would just sit there. I remember one time one guy was photographing me, he videoed me, he was looking at me, he did every angle, totally scanning me, and then he says, right, he's good. So there was no escape from, you had to be on top form. There's no room for error. Of course, I mean, they could choose anyone in the world, and for campaigns they want the best. So yeah, it's to be put it frankly, it's the hardest, brutal thing, and it's all very well, saying that you work for that, but you earned that. There's no fluke in that. Yeah, I'm very lucky with the editorial. I was actually editorial. That's all I ever did. And I was never commercial. And the funny thing is that the commercial people make the money, working in Germany. So, and people don't realize the bigger the magazine, the less money you get. Then that was, shows and Vogue and things like that. They paid nothing because of their prestige. So you got a lot of nice pictures. So campaigns were important. They paid good money. Editorial paid nothing at all. So editorial will lead on to campaigns. So I didn't qualify for the 800 meters for the Olympics, but let's say the dessert or the thing that made me feel good about myself was the Nike campaign, because it was a worldwide campaign and I wanted an athlete. So getting the Nike campaign was like, yes, that's always my dream. And to bring out, and you got to understand, in the 90s, Nike's was huge. It was the biggest thing. And we brought out Dry Fit, which was this material. So that was, I didn't care what else I did Nike. And it was a worldwide campaign, choose, through real athletes. So that made me feel good. And I still can't believe I did it. So in the 90s, it was a woman period. Us men were, we weren't paid as much. We were, not exposed as much. There was no male supermodels. Maybe towards the end, but, we're the people in the background, the side, that we refer to as handbags. So it was totally a woman's industry. So, yeah, generally we never shot, women shot by themselves. So if you're in an editorial with a woman, you're generally in the side, and there. It was all about the woman, and they got paid twice as much. And so, yeah, I don't think men were taken seriously, to be honest. Especially we never kind of worked together, but some of the jobs I did with women, females, it was not, I wasn't the main focus in the woman, so it was mostly the supermodels period, and it was women, and men were just in the shots. So for me, looking at the supermodels, but those supermodels were my competition too. So I would go to castings, and they would have 5 cards of the best models in the world. And my card, working in Europe, they choose the best. So I had to work with these guys, and at the same time, I admired them, who they were. But at the same time, I had to believe that I was as good as them. And maybe they were looking at me too, saying the same thing. But it's really interesting when you look at your models you look up to, and they're actually the same casting. You got their cards on the table and stuff like that, and you think, Jesus, that's Van der Loo or Marcus Frankenberg or all these top guys. And so in Europe, you usually, for me, I was editorial, and my competition was immense. They had the best. And actually, when we went to Vogue and magazines like castings like that, we only had 4 or 3 models there. So you could be the only 3 card, and they would literally put the card up in front of your face. They would talk in front of you and say, and if they put your card, it's like cards onto the right hand side, you got the job. If they put it, and then they would put it next to the other guy like Van der Loo. I remember this clearly. Marcus Van der Loo did Hugo Boss, and they put it next, and they would discuss it, and they would either put his card down and put your card to the side. So it was all happening in front of you, but you're looking at these supermodels and thinking, oh my God, these are the best. But you know, it brings up your game too, because you can't be intimidated by these guys. You know, it's been my life, and you know, honestly, I've travelled around the world. I live in the south of France. I have we have a place in Denmark. I've had the most incredible life. So yes, you know, that's from a person from New Zealand to travel the world so many times and experience so many things. That I'm grateful about. I mean, I've had the most incredible experience, and simply because of modelling, vacation shoots, and so that's, you know, you can never take that back. You know, the experience of travelling and seeing countries and things like that.